everyone, and welcome back to Let's Talk English. I'm Madison.
And I'm Brandon. Great to have you all here today.
How are you doing, Brandon? Ready for another exciting episode?
Absolutely. I've had my coffee, so I'm all set. How about you?
Same here. Though, as we'll learn today, my American coffee to go is very different from what our British and Australian friends might be having.
Perfect segue. But before we dive in, if you're new here, welcome. And if you're a returning listener, welcome back. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us reach more English learners like you.
Exactly. And turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. All right, so today we're diving into something absolutely fascinating: the cultural differences between three major English-speaking countries: the United States, the United Kingdom, and Australia.
And trust me, even though we all speak English, the differences are wild. We're talking about completely different words for the same things, totally different lifestyles, and humor that can lead to some seriously awkward misunderstandings.
Exactly. So here's how we're going to structure this episode. We'll start with the basics, vocabulary, and everyday language differences. Then we'll explore how people actually live their daily lives in these three countries. And finally, and this is where it gets really interesting, we'll talk about humor and why a joke that kills in Australia might completely bomb in America.
Yeah, stick around for that last part because we're going to share some real examples of cultural misunderstandings that'll make you laugh or cringe.
All right, let's jump in and let's talk English.
So, Madison, let's start with the obvious question. How can the same language be so different?
It's crazy, right? Let's start with something simple: transportation. In America, we drive a truck, but in the UK, they call it a lorry. And in Australia, they have a ute, short for utility vehicle.
And speaking of driving, the roads have different names too. In the US, we say freeway. The British say motorway. And Australians typically say highway.
Food is another minefield. In America, we have cookies. In the UK, those are biscuits. But here's where it gets confusing. In Australia, biscuits also means cookies, but they have scones for their tea time.
Tea time? That's such a British thing. But did you know that in Britain, tea can actually mean dinner? Like the evening meal?
Really? That would confuse so many Americans.
Absolutely. And speaking of confusing terms, Australians love abbreviating everything. They say arvo for afternoon. Can you imagine an American saying, "Let's meet this arvo"?
Exactly. And this brings us to something really interesting about communication styles. Have you noticed that British people say please and sorry way more often than Americans?
Oh, absolutely. British people will say sorry even when someone else bumps into them. Americans are generally more casual and direct. We might say excuse me, but not as frequently.
And Australians? They're super laid back, very casual, very relaxed communication style.
Which actually leads us to humor in language. This is where things get really interesting. British humor is all about irony and understatement. If a British person says, "That's not bad," they might actually mean it's excellent.
Whereas an American would just say, "That's excellent." We're much more direct and literal with our humor.
And Australians? They have this amazing, self-deprecating, dry sense of humor. They'll make fun of themselves before you can make fun of them.
I love that. But it can definitely lead to misunderstandings if you're not familiar with the style.
All right, let's move from language to lifestyle. How do people actually live their daily lives in these countries?
Let's start with something everyone loves: coffee and tea. In America, coffee to go is huge. We're always rushing around with our Starbucks cups.
Meanwhile, in the UK, tea time is sacred. It's this whole cultural institution. People actually stop what they're doing to have tea, often with biscuits, or as we'd say, cookies.
And Australia has developed this really hip urban coffee culture. Melbourne is actually famous for having some of the best coffee in the world.
Speaking of daily routines, work culture is vastly different too. In America, long working hours are pretty standard. People often work 50, 60 hours a week.
The UK is better about work-life balance. They tend to respect personal time more. And Australia? Super relaxed and outdoor-oriented. They really prioritize that balance.
All right, everyone, we're about halfway through this episode. And if you're enjoying what you're hearing so far, please hit that like button right now. It really makes a huge difference for us.
Yes. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Click that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our future episodes.
And here's something really important. If you have friends who are learning English or who just love listening to English conversations, please share this video with them. Send them the link. Post it on social media, whatever works. Help us build this amazing English learning community.
Exactly. The more people we can help with their English, the better. All right, let's continue.
So that outdoor lifestyle in Australia shows up in their sports too. Americans love American football and baseball. The British are passionate about soccer, or as they call it, football, and rugby.
And Australians have Australian rules, football and cricket. These are sports that most Americans have never even seen.
Transportation is another big difference. In the UK, the train network is really well developed. You can get almost anywhere by train.
But in America, you basically need a car. Public transportation exists in big cities, but in most of the country, driving is essential.
Australia is kind of a mix. You need cars in most places, but cities like Sydney and Melbourne have decent public transport.
Let's talk about food culture. Fast food is huge in America. We invented the drive-through culture.
The UK is all about pubs and fish and chips. That's the classic British meal.
And Australia, barbecues and meat pies. They take their barbecue culture very seriously.
Holidays are interesting too. America has Thanksgiving, which is unique to us. The UK has Bonfire Night on November 5th, celebrating Guy Fawkes Night.
And Australia has Australia Day on January 26th, celebrating the arrival of the First Fleet.
Even housing is different. American houses tend to be larger. Space is less of an issue.
British homes are often smaller, with lots of historical architecture. Old buildings are everywhere.
And in Australia, having a house with a garden is pretty standard, even in cities. That outdoor lifestyle again.
All right, here's where it gets really fun: humor and entertainment. This is where cultural differences really shine through.
Perfect example: The Office. There's a British version and an American version. Same concept, totally different execution.
The British version is dry, sarcastic, and sometimes painfully awkward. The humor is subtle.
The American version is more over the top, with slapstick comedy and more obvious jokes. Both are funny, but in completely different ways.
And then you have Australian shows like Kath and Kim, that's cheeky, direct, and unapologetically Australian.
Self-deprecating humor is huge in Australia. They love making fun of themselves. British humor is more about subtle irony and understatement. And Americans, we love wordplay and pop culture references.
Here's something interesting: how people handle insults or teasing. The British do it subtly and playfully. Americans are more direct but usually harmless about it.
But Australians, they'll roast their best friends constantly. It's actually a sign of affection. If an Australian is insulting you, you're probably good mates.
That could lead to so many misunderstandings. An American might think someone hates them, when really, they're just being friendly.
Exactly. Comedy styles are different too. Americans love visual gags and big comedy shows. The UK is all about wordplay, satire, and clever writing.
And Australia embraces dark humor and absurd situations. They find humor in things that other cultures might find uncomfortable.
Sports culture affects humor too. Australians joke about cricket and Aussie rules. British people make endless jokes about football. And Americans have this huge college sports culture that influences our comedy.
So here's the thing. These differences can lead to real misunderstandings. An American often won't get British irony. They'll take it literally and think someone is being serious when they're actually joking.
And a British person might be completely confused by Australian slang abbreviations. Let's grab a sanga at the servo this arvo. That's let's grab a sandwich in the gas station this afternoon.
See, even understanding the translation, it sounds so foreign.
The key takeaway here is that language is about so much more than words. It's about culture, history, humor, and lifestyle.
When you're learning English, don't just learn the grammar and vocabulary. Learn about the people and the culture behind the language.
It'll make you a much better communicator and help you avoid those awkward moments when your joke falls completely flat.
Exactly. So whether you're planning to visit the US, the UK, or Australia, or just want to understand English better, remember that context is everything.
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode, everyone. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a comment about which English-speaking country you'd most like to visit.
And tell us, have you ever experienced a cultural misunderstanding because of language differences? We'd love to hear your stories.
Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep speaking English.
Bye, everyone.
See you next time.